I just watched Bodies, 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 and I'm conflicted. I haven't been this conflicted on a film in quite a while. I don't know if I like it or dislike it. It's a really odd watch. This is the latest A24 horror movie. I'm an A24 dick rider. But I wasn't really looking forward to watching this one, to be quite honest. I was actually thinking about skipping on it. This is a first time director. She hasn't made anything that I've heard of. So I didn't really have a track record to base myself off of. And then I saw the trailers and it kind of just looked a bit too Gen Z for me. Had Pete Davidson in it, who I'm not really a fan of. The premise of it kind of felt like a bad Blumhouse the game becomes reality, kind of like Truth or Dare or Ouija Origin of Evil or that kind of thing. I was thinking of skipping it, decided to give it a shot because I heard some mixed things and I wanted to form my own opinion. So Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is a whodunit murder mystery. A group of rich Gen Z teenagers assemble in a mansion during a hurricane to do some drugs, drink, party, and all of a sudden a whodunit murder mystery happens in the vein of an Agatha Christie play. Yeah, so like I said, I'm very conflicted on this movie. First of all, I think the standout here is the cast. The cast actually really works. The best part of this movie is Rachel, I can't say her last name, but Sennott. I recommended a movie last year called Shiva Baby. Great movie. Go watch Shiva Baby. She's excellent in Shiva Baby. She's excellent in this movie, and her character also is the standout because she's the comic relief of this. She gets a lot of the best lines. She's really the standout in here, in my opinion. The comedy of her character comes from the fact that she's trying to be seen as this very woke intellectual, but it kind of doesn't really work, and she's viewed as a very dumb character from her friends. Pete Davidson is not really predominant in the film, but he works in small doses for me, and he's presented in small doses in this film. This isn't really a spoiler. I think everyone kind of knows it at this point. This is something that kind of pissed me off. They were releasing promotional material for the film, behind the scenes photos, and one of the behind the scenes photos was Pete Davidson with the makeup, and he had a slit throat. So, yeah, you know he's biting the dust in this movie, but on the bright side, it happens earlier on, so it's not really a spoiler. Cast really works in this. The movie starts, and I had a feeling I wasn't gonna like this movie. It opens, and you're introduced to your protagonist, played by Maria Bakalova, who played Borat's daughter in Borat 2. And she's having this lesbian kiss, and it's really showing the lesbian kiss and smooching and all that. That's how it starts. So this character is in a lesbian relationship, but then every other character introduced after that is fucking hateable. Maria Bakalova's love interest in this is, I thought, very hateable. She gets kind of jealous at the fact that her partner is dancing intimately with someone, but yet she dances intimately with a she's a very jealous character is what I'm getting at. Then Pete Davidson has major problems. He's very entitled, very spoiled, and just an overall asshole. Everyone has like a rich kid vibe, and the only character I found myself somewhat relating to was Maria Bakalova, who's probably meant to be the audience in this situation, until she does something that's very unlikable and not well thought out herself. So the characters are very unlikable in this film, and I don't think the director wanted to really make these characters likable. Tonally, I think the director was going for a film kind of along the lines of Scream, more of a commentary on today's culture and also the horror genre itself. The film takes these dumb characters, Gen Z stereotypes, and places them in this really horrific environment. But the tone doesn't really go quite as goofy as you would think. It's kind of hard to tell if the director is in on the absurdity of the situation or not. It has a very, very deadpan tone. A critic I really like by the name of Chris Gore, he watched this movie and fucking hated it. Tore it a new asshole. And I think Chris Gore thought that this movie was supposed to be taken 100% seriously. And I don't think this movie is supposed to be taken 100% seriously. At least I didn't view it as 100% serious. I watched Chris Gore's review of this film before watching the film. He talks about a line that a character says. She says, you know what? You think you're upper middle class, but you're actually just upper class. And like they kind of go back and forth on that. And Chris Gore, when he talked about it, he really didn't like it. The director had to know that was an absurd line. So the presentation of it is very serious and dramatic. And it really works because you're putting these very archetype characters in this real life environment. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand with what the movie is trying to say. This movie ultimately is trying to say that the internet generation, despite being very tech savvy, ultimately has trouble communicating. These characters really have tunnel vision. Even the setting of this film, it's this dark environment. There's no electricity because of the hurricane, and they're only being lit by the flashlights on their phones and the glow of the screen. That's the only thing lighting them. And I felt like that contributed to what the director was trying to say, that these characters, they'll talk about their feelings, they'll create stereotypes in their head, they'll talk about their mental illnesses, they'll try to bury themselves in drugs and alcohol, but ultimately they just lack that problem-solving skill. The characters also claim that they know each other for a very long time, but do they truly know each other? Their relationships seem very superficial, and it doesn't feel like a true friendship. And if it was a more intimate relationship, maybe this whole thing probably wouldn't have happened. I think the main appeal of this film is that when you watch a really bad, campy horror movie, one of the main problems people have with it is, why don't the characters just talk? Why don't they just talk? They can just resolve this situation. I think the director is taking that cliche, dialing it to 1,000, and making it a commentary on today's climate. That's what the vibe of the movie was going for, in my opinion. Now, it's hard because on the one hand, this movie does have a very serious tone, which I get why the director went for that. The director is trying to put these very comedic characters in this very serious, dramatic environment. It kind of conflicts with the message of the film. The tone is basically all over the place, is what I'm saying. I think the movie also thinks it's smarter than it actually is. The twist of the film, I saw coming a mile away, and it becomes very apparent, I'd say, halfway through the movie. You don't even have to be a super sleuth in order to get what this movie is trying to do by the halfway mark. So the movie, for me, lacked a lot of suspense, which is a problem because that's what you go watch a whodunit murder mystery for, is for the suspense. But it kind of lacks that. So what about the kills, right? Well, the kills are pretty not fun to watch. To me, the movie this really reminded me of was this great movie that came out in about 10 years ago, I would say. It was called Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. If you haven't seen the movie Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, go watch it right away. It's a great horror comedy that really comments on the horror genre. You're kind of following these two hicks called Tucker and Dale, and all of a sudden these drunk teens that like to party show up around their property, and a few mishaps leads to misunderstandings, and all of a sudden these teens are killing each other because of the presence of two rednecks. Go watch the movie Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. But that's what I mean. Like, I wish the movie had a more clear tone in it, what it was trying to do. I feel like this was kind of just all over the place. There was some things I really liked in it, like that comedic relief character really worked for me. But then there was other moments where I felt like it's taking itself way too seriously. It kind of doesn't know. It's conflicted between tones. It's a little all over the place. But I will say this about the movie. It's a good rainy day movie watch. I went to see it in the cinema. I don't think it warrants a trip to the cinema. If you're hard pressed for cash, probably wait till this comes out on a streaming service. You don't gotta watch this in the cinema. I caught it on a Tuesday, and the Tuesdays at my local cinema have discounts, so it was only like $6 for the ticket. Well, it was a fun time, you know. My theater was empty. I was literally the only person in the theater, and I always feel bad for that because the projectionist got to do his job. Yeah, so I'm conflicted on this movie. I would say go watch it and form your own opinion. This is a movie with integrity. It is trying to do something. It's not some dumb movie like a Blumhouse movie like I was expecting. So I had fun watching it. All right, that's my review. I'll see you guys around, and I love you.